What's up YouTube? George's Silver Hunter back, and today we'll be hunting a full $500 box of quarters that I picked up from a Wells Fargo all the way across town in Duluth. That's about 45 minutes from where I normally hunt, so I'm kind of excited to get into these Loomis rolls and see if we find some interesting things that I might not be finding in my local Wells Fargos near my house. So super excited to get into these. Let's jump into it. So this video will be part of our Hunt and Fill series as we are trying to fill out a second set of quarter books. And we just have a few quarters left, and I'm going to go through what we're looking for here in our Series 2 book. So the 65 to 87 Whitman folder is complete. The 88 to 98 book is complete. Now the American Women's Quarters book, both for the Series 1 and Series 2, are in the exact same place, and that we're missing the Denver minted Bessie Coleman and the Denver minted Kanaka Ole, and then of course anything that's going to come out after that, of course. But we need the exact same things for both series of books. As for our state quarters and our national park quarter book, just to show you guys, it's been a while since I've opened this on camera, but completely full. It could use some upgrades, so I am pulling anything that's super shiny and new. But for our Series 2 books, the only thing we're missing in that national park book is the 2011 Denver minted Pennsylvania and the 2012 Denver minted New Mexico. So those are the only two quarters we really need to complete the second set of books. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into these quarters. And for those of you that want to follow along, if you look in the description down below this video, I do have a link to a coin roll hunting checklist that I use, whether we're hunting pennies, nickels, dimes, or quarters. It'll lay out everything we're looking for in this hunt. And I'll talk about a few of them as we get into our first roll. So we're going to go ahead and get into the first roll together. We're just going to open it on camera. I mentioned my checklist already, but just to rattle off the big things we're looking for. So San Francisco business strikes, they're basically not intended for circulation coins. I don't even know what years they run, but I find an awful lot of 2017s and 2018s in my area. They would be San Francisco mint marked, but they would not have a proof finish. So that means we're also looking for San Francisco minted proofs. We'll be looking for any number of errors, mostly die chips and die cracks. Any kind of mint errors like clip planchets or off-center strikes. And then, of course, we're looking for upgrades in our books. The two big major things that we're looking for are our West Point minted quarters, which were minted in 2019 and 2020. And those can go from anywhere about $10 up to $20, maybe even $30, depending on which design it is. And then, of course, our silver, which is 1964 and earlier. We're also looking for double die obverses and reverses, and we'll get into all that if we happen to find one. It's a bit much to explain kind of as an intro to a video, so as we come across those, which it's very, very rare, I'll make sure to take you under the microscope, and we'll talk all about that error. So with that, I'm not seeing anything in this first roll, so I'm going to go ahead and get through this one on camera, and then we will go off camera and I'll bring you in as we find things. So I've got rolls 2 through 5 laid out in front of me, and I've been going through roll number 2. The quarter I want to show you I've already got under the scope, and it is an outstanding example of the Drooling George. And we'll see which quarter it is specifically, but it's where we end up with a die chip right here in the corner of George's mouth. It looks like he's drooling, hence the name, the Drooling George. And the bigger and better this die chip is, typically the more money you can get for it. Obviously, condition matters as well. Let's see here if I can get a good zoom on this quarter. So this is a 2022 Philadelphia, which is where you find most of your die chips. And you can actually see this without the aid of a scope. That's how big it is. Look at that thing. It's huge. But this is on the Wilma Mankiller, and it looks like we've also got the die chip in the hair right here. So we've got a die chip on the front and the back, which may make this one a little bit more valuable. Still on roll number 2, as we got towards the end, we did come across a Philadelphia Bicentennial, which I've pulled, and I'm going to line up potential upgrades down the side of my mat here. But we've got one of the new Bessie Coleman die chip on the airplane errors right here. I've covered this in a lot of other videos, and I'll throw some comps up on the screen for what this is going for today on eBay. This one seems to be fairly common, at least right now, until people start pulling it like crazy. But typically you're looking for a big die chip here, down the side of the plane, or maybe even down here on the bottom biplane wing. Those are all the ones I've found, and there may be others out there. So we're into roll 3 of 5, and we actually had 2 that were pretty much right next to each other. They were within about 5 quarters that I'd picked up in my hand and gone through in one little batch. But the first one is one I haven't seen in a while, and it is on the Homestead quarter, which has the most, I think, DDRs of all the state quarters. And this one is, let's see here, it is called the Leaky Bucket. And it's where you get a big die chip right here underneath the bucket, and it makes it look like it's leaking water. Now, the really valuable ones have the die chip that's here, and it actually extends all the way down here underneath the water pump. I have found a few of those, and they can go for a decent amount of money. As usual, at some point in the video, I will put up some eBay comps so you guys can see what this is going for today, if you happen to find one in your pocket. We also have another die chip error on the Bessie Coleman, and this one's a little bit different. And I've found 2 or 3 of these, and it is a little die chip here up in the fingers. So I've only found 2 or 3 of these. I don't think these are as common as the biplane errors, so keep an eye out for these. Just finished getting through roll 5, and I wanted to bring you in and show you an error that it's been a while since I've shown on the channel because I just haven't found any. And I've got one clean one just to show you guys under the scope here. If I can do this all together here. So there are the, I believe it's the engraver's initials there, an E and a C. Those are NQs to the coin, which means they're kind of embedded in the coin. And I have found 2 that have the NQs error, which it's some doubling on that E and C. And one of them's pretty minor. And it helps if I put a little bit of a shadow with my finger on it. But you can see there's another E and a little bit of another C kind of poking out just on the corner of that E. Kind of right in here and in here. This one's pretty minor. But I have another one that's a little more extreme. And I was just looking these up on eBay. So here you can see that E pretty clearly right here, but the C's missing. And again, the little trick I have is if you put just a little bit of a shadow with your finger over it, it will kind of jump out. Let's see here. There we go. That E is really, really plain, but the C's kind of missing. Now, ones where there's pretty good doubling there on the E and the C, they're going for a couple of bucks, like $6, $7.50 on eBay if the coin's in really, really good condition, which most of these Bessie Colemans are. I've seen a few of these only go for $1 or $2. The very first one of these I found, I can't remember, I sold it for like 17, 18 bucks, or maybe it was like 24 or 25. I can't recall exactly, but this is an error you should keep an eye out for. You can see it under like a camera zoom. It's a little easier to see under a scope. But I don't find a lot of these. I find a lot more of the die chip on the airplane errors. So keep an eye out. Could be worth some money. I just broke into roll 26, and we had a brief moment of excitement. You can see here I've got something super shiny and super silvery right here at the end, but I could immediately tell that the reading was off. So I did one of my favorite little tricks. I have some rare earth magnets, and if this is Canadian, it will be magnetic. So unfortunately, when I tested this off camera, it truly was a Canadian quarter. So same roll towards the very end, really almost where we picked out that Canadian, we've got our first W of the hunt. If I can get that to focus. Now this has definitely seen better days. Got a little bit of dirt and grime on it. Looks like we have a Salt River Bay 2020. So we should have that V75 privy, which we do. Probably just needs to soak in a little warm water or some acetone. This may clean up nicely, but a little more dinged up than we usually see. We're into roll 29, and we've got a book filler, and this is one I've been looking for some time. It actually came up reverse facing. I've already checked the other side. That's how I know it's going to be a book filler. But this Bessie Coleman, it was so shiny, I actually thought this might be a San Francisco business strike. So when I flipped it over to check that mint mark and found that D, I was quite surprised because I haven't found one of these. And this quarter's been out quite a long time. and made its way around America. And this is literally the very first one that I've come across in any hunt for the last several months. So excited to have this. Nice book filler. This will go in my Series 1 American Women's Quarters book. We just got into roll 45, and we've now made this hunt officially pretty awesome. So we have a beat up W that I think might clean up all right, but getting into roll 45, we came across the other something special we're always hunting for, and it's right there. Now that has the right reading. I've checked it with my handy magnet. I mean, I guess it could be from some other foreign country, but here in Georgia, they're typically Canadian. Let's check it out. That is a silver U.S. quarter. Actually in pretty decent shape, too. 1964, that's why. So 90% silver right there. We will take that. So 1 silver, 1 W, and a bunch of other stuff. I brought you in for at least one example of all the things that I have up here. These are just upgrades. I think I explained that earlier, or potential upgrades. But we'll cover all that again in the recap. But man, any box that produces at least a piece of silver and a W, where's my W? It's over here, is a pretty good box to me these days. W's are getting harder and harder to find, and silver seems to be almost impossible. So I'll take it. So we've reached the end of our box, and we actually had a pretty productive search here, pretty productive hunt. Actually, we had a lot of finds. We did have a lot of, I'll say duplicates, but they weren't all the same. We did have some book upgrades, and we had a lot of bicentennials. So let's go through this as quickly as we can. I'll start with the bicentennials just to get them out of the way. We had, I think, 8, 10. We had 11 Philadelphia bicentennials and 3 Denver bicentennials. I'll keep the nicest ones out of here because I do collect these. Everything else that's kind of dirty and dingy will go back to the bank. I occasionally sell these rolls on eBay, and I used to do okay. It's been a long time since I've sold them, but back in the day I was getting like $15, $16, $17 a roll for bicentennials. So that's why I collect these, but not worth a whole lot to the average person. They're just a quarter. Where can we go from here? Let's start on this side. I'm pretty sure I brought you in for this. As a matter of fact, I know I brought you in for it. We have the leaky bucket here. This is the Homestead. It needs a little bit of TLC, like some soaking in some acetone or some nice warm water. No scrubbing. Other than that, it's still got pretty decent detail. You can see that dye chip underneath the bucket without me putting it back under the scope. I did look at this on eBay, and they're going for about $3 to $6 any given day of the week, or as these things sell in decent condition. Moving on here to the Wilma Man Killers, we've got, let's see here, a couple of different ones to show you. The first ones here are the Drooling Georges. I did end up with 2 of those, and I'm pretty sure, let's see here, which one. I know I brought one of these under the scope for you guys because it was a double error. It was this one. This one had the really, really big Drooling George dye chip, and it had the hair dye chip. Let me see if I can zoom in on that a little bit more. Here in that little crevice in Wilma Man Killer's hair. Now, I wasn't able to find a double error comp on eBay, but all of these dye chip in the hair and Drooling Georges, they typically go for like, you know, $1.50 to $2. The dye chip in the hair seemed to be going for about $2.50 to about $5, depending on the condition of the coin. So, you know, again, here with 5 of them, that can add up. I don't know if people would buy these as a lot, but individually, that's about what they're going for on eBay. When it came to the Bessie Colemans, we too had a bunch of different varieties on these, and I didn't bring you in for each and every one, but they were, for the most part, the same error, just sort of in different places. So most of them were a dye chip, and I think these were a dye chip in the wing somewhere. And this one's a little bit harder to see. Let me put this under the scope. Where is it? There we go. We had one with the dye chip here on the wing. I think we had 2 of those. We had a couple with the dye chip down here on the bottom of the wing. That was a very, very small dye chip. And lastly, I think we had one with a much bigger dye chip up here on the wing. Of those 3, this one would likely be the most valuable because it has the biggest dye chip, but most of these weren't real expensive. Call it $1 to about $3. Now, The one with the bigger die chip on the wing, there was one example on eBay that went for upwards of $10, but I think that was sort of an outlier. Most of them did not go for that kind of money. The other one we had was this NQ's error down here on the E and C. And let me get that one under the scope too, because that one's pretty hard to see just under the camera zoom. And I think this is one of them. Oh, I don't think that's it. Where did I put it? Nah, I grabbed from the wrong side. Oh, these were the die chip in the hand error. Let me show you that one. Now I remember which one this is. Right there. We've got a die chip up here in the finger. I got 2 of those. And those 2 were kind of in that $1 to $3 range. Down here, these were the NQ's error in the E and the C. So let's get that under the scope. There it is. And that actually showed up really, really quickly for us right there. We found 2. This was the better example, so I'm not going to show you the other one. These NQ's errors, the really, really good ones, especially where the E and the C were doubled, they were going upwards of $20 on eBay if the coin was in decent condition. So the worser examples like this one were closer to $10. So this can be a pretty valuable error if you can find it. And again, these are recent eBay comps as of July 7th, 2023. So, you know, I'm not making this up or pulling it out of my butt here. These were recent comps I looked up on eBay. You know, of course, we can never be upset about finding silver in quarters, especially in quarters, because they're just getting really, really hard to find. At today's melt price, this quarter is worth about $4.10 in silver melt weight. And with premiums today, you could count on getting maybe $5 to $6 for this coin. Our W, the Salt River Bay is one of the lower end Ws on the market today. Most of the comps on eBay had this kind of in that right around $10 range. I did see one go as high as about $13.95 or maybe it was $14.50, but most of them settled in right around $9.99. Of course, we did have our Canadian quarter. I didn't tell you the date when we found it earlier, but it was a 1977. A few years off from it being silver, and if it was silver, then it wouldn't have been attracted to the magnets. So that's unfortunate, but I don't mind finding Canadian quarters. The only book filler we got was this 2023 Bessie Coleman. And I went through I had about 20 coins that I pulled for upgrades. And we're going to keep this 2003 Alabama. I think that was a Philly. We're going to keep this 2001 Kentucky, also a Philly. We had a 2005 Philly, and I think the last one might have been a Denver. This Hawaii, yeah, this is going to be a Denver. You can just tell by the sheen. Yep. All 4 of those are upgrades for my books, and I'll do a quick little video and put an overlay of me punching those down in the book. I've already thrown out the coins that are going to be replaced, so it'll be easy to pop those in. So overall, this was a lot of fun. We had a lot of finds. So hopefully your quarter boxes, if you're hunting them, you're finding at least this many. I didn't do an exact count, but I'm sure this was over 20, 25, 30 coins that we found in that hunt. So this was a good one for me. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it's not too long. I know this wrap-up carried on a bit longer than I expected it to, but we did have a lot of coins to talk about. So with that, if you did enjoy it, let me know. Drop down in the comments below. Click that like button. Leave me a comment while you're down there. If you're new to the channel and you like coin roll hunts, make sure you do drop down below and click on that subscribe button. And then click on that little bell and select all so you get notified each and every time I release a new video. Special shout out to my channel members. Thank you for your support. It really helps out the channel. Really, really appreciate it. You can hear I've got a little cough going. I got halfway done with this box about 4 or 5 days ago and then got some food poisoning, and now I've developed a little cough. So trying to get back into hunting. So wanted to get through this box so I could get it back to the bank and pick up some more coins for the weekend. But hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.